Thank you and welcome, Margaret Garcia, because this is the most amazing exhibit that I've ever seen in this museum. It's, while I was waiting, I just wrote down different things people said about it, and here are some of them. Look at that color. She paints good. This work is just astonishing. It's almost as if it has a life behind it. It crackles with energy. And those were just things I happened to hear while I was walking around with a pencil, eavesdropping. So it is a response to this gorgeous body of work that we know she built over decades as a woman artist. We wanted to, and she called this Poseia para la Gente, because she is dedicated to community and has been for the last 40 or more years. We wanted to offer something in poetry that matched it, and that's why we called it Poesía para la Gente, which means poetry for the people, just as arte para la gente is art for the people. And we were so lucky to gather together a group of beautiful Latino or Latinx poets to share the art that they have been building over time. And the person whose idea it was is Melinda Palacio over there with a guitar. And Melinda Palacio knew Margaret Garcia before and had the honor to have her portrait painted by Margaret as part of her community series. And so it's over there when it's on, but it's not on right now because there's music, and we don't want music right now. So during the pandemic, Melinda started working on, besides writing, she has written a novel, she does a blog, she's written an award-winning book of poetry, etc., more than one book of poetry. She started working on songwriting, and she created a song for Margaret Garcia. So please welcome Melinda, and she's gonna sing her song for Margaret.
I wanted to write a song that's based on the title poem, How Fire is a Story Waiting. And this is the portrait that Margaret Garcia did for my book. And she said, I wanted to do a portrait of you when I asked her if I could use one of her fire paintings for the book. She warms the house on cold mornings. She lights the stubborn burner on the right. Through orange windows, framed by obsidian eyes, she shows the child she once was. Mariachi dreams tucked into her girdle. Her song falls on gas burners turned on high. Lullabies hide her tears for faded years. And it's funny, funny how fire is a story, how fire is a story waiting, how fire is a story waiting. She laughs as she catches the fire. I watch the red glow from my chair. Don't bother wondering why he's not there. Fire burns hot and cold if you know where to touch it, she said. Lullabies hide her tears for faded years. And it's funny, Funny how fire is a story, how fire is a story waiting, how fire is a story waiting. In our home the flame burned bright, even when a matchstick helped its light. The constant fire, how it grew stronger, flame kept us from hunger. How a melted pencil makes my sister beautiful. The flame makes her beautiful. And it's funny, funny, funny how fire is a story, how fire is a story waiting, how fire is a story waiting. The show over, she blows out the fire.
Thank you very much, Melinda. We all enjoyed that. And certainly just looking at this wall, we can see the haunting power and beauty and ferocity of fire as it affected Margaret Garcia. The first poet that I'd like to have come up is Luzmaria Espinosa. Luzmaria Espinosa is the poet laureate of Ventura County. She is from Santa Paula and has been an activist for social change through art for decades. In 1979, she became a member of the Royal Chicano Air Force, a Sacramento-based art collective involved in theater, visual, performance, poetry, musical art, all the arts. It advanced the cause of the United Farm Workers movement. She also taught and performed with Danza Azteca since 1984, and she introduced it to this area. So the many Danza Azteca groups we have here now began with Luzma. She has performed in theater art productions throughout California, including Teatro en la Cache of Oxnard and the guerrilla theater group known as Los Mascarrones from Mexico City. Please welcome Luzma Espinosa.
Bueno, a ver si I don't get nervous, ¿verdad? Buenas tardes, good afternoon. First, I want to thank the Museum of Ventura County for having this event, and also Phil and Marsha for putting this together. Margaret Garcia for her work, for her beautiful, inspiring work. No solamente los colores vienen a tener vida, sino también hablan al alma. They speak to the soul. And so thank you, Margaret Garcia, for that, and to all the poets here today también. So I want to start with a poem because I see the audience is not just Spanish mixtures. Just to warn you guys, I have in my life, all my poetry includes a mixture of Spanglish, English and Spanish, and Nahuatl. But I'll start with this one. As you know, when we're growing up, we all have this idea of what beauty is based on social media, ¿verdad? So this one is called I Used to Want to Be. I used to want to be like Judy Garland, have her elegance and grace, a voice more melodic than a lark, more glamorous than a swan, until the day that I discovered pills kept her in a haze. She lived in a daze. So I'm content to be myself. I used to want to be gracefully gliding across the dance floor like Miss Grace and Fred Astaire. I dreamed of being Gina Lola Brigida. I dreamed of marrying Prince Cuauhtemoc, turning out into the sun. I used to want to be like Cesar Chavez, y Dolores Huerta too, advocating for the rights of others, being successful at it too. I used to want to be like Susan B. Anthony, marching with the suffragettes, celebrating our February birthdays together, even thought I could be like Plato too. Silver moons have come and gone, many storms and starry nights. There's no silver lining on the other side. So I've learned to be content and proud to be myself. In the 1970s, the late 1970s, 79, there was a whole lot of talk about the people who spoke Spanish were going to be, at one point, a majority in the country. And how, because they were so diverse, what were we going to call them? So our government went to the Cubans and said, what do you all want to be called? Because they got the money and they got the power. So they went to them, they said Hispanic. So that's, the 80s were called the decade of the Hispanics. So this poem, I think, is still relevant today, even though I wrote it in the 80s. It's called Chicanos and Chicanas. Let me see. Yeah, I tell you, I get nervous. Okay? Here it is. Chicanos and Chicanas in the 80s and the 90s and beyond, 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 beyond. Imagine yourself hypnotized, watching and listening to the Twilight Zone. Chicanos and Chicanos, astro pilots of Aztlán. With the speed of lightning, we have landed in the 21st century, no longer cruising it low and slow. What have we brought forth with us to la era del sexto sol? The space age awaits us, the computerized era in human form, like an episode from the Twilight Zone. Check it out. Remember the 60s? America's universities opened the floodgates of higher learning to those of us of different races and ethnic hues. We met Che, Marx, Malcolm X, Nezahualcóyotl, Lolita Lebrón, Black Elk, Emme, and in city schools, filias and little pueblitos, men, women, and children were kicking the Pentagon's ass. Hell no, we won't go. Hell no, we won't go. Young warriors took to the streets. We didn't want our boys going to fight this country's pinche war. So en el año 70, we let it be known. Raza sí, guerra no, chale no. We won't go to the Vietnam zone. We had our fight right here at home. So en el año 70, we let it be known. They came back with an ambush at a park in East Los. And inside the silver dollar, they spilled the blood of Rubén Salazar, justifying blindly in their courts. Desde Texas a California, campesinos están luchando. Desde Texas a California, los rancheros a llore, llore. Marchas a Sacramento, florecía nueva vida, arte y cultura. Desde Califas a Chile, Puerto Rico y Vietnam, we lost many in battle, sometimes confusing our battle zones. Community infighting was rampant when Baki won in court. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are. We have arrived to the 21st century, spiraling to the pyramid of the Sol. Our history unfolds, orbiting flying jalapenos, lowriders, oldies, the smell of tortillas. Our children we must honor and protect in the Twilight Zone, in the 80s, in the 90s, to infinity and beyond, 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 beyond. This poem is kind of a long one. I'll just read part of it. I was asked to do a poem for this conference for young people. And it was about getting an education and why education is important. So I wrote this poem for that. It's called Edúcate, Raza. So for those of you who don't know Spanish, I think you can get the gist of it in English and Spanish. It's not meant to disrespect you. It's just this is how I write. This is who I am. Edúcate, raza, raza de bronce, raza cósmica, raza mestiza, casi casi india, pero not quite. Casi casi blanca, pero never. In America, mestizos are in never ever land. Edúcate, raza, to hear the silent tears when your mother's weak, when you run the virtual streets. Listen to the wailing of the people. Hear the heart from the beat, from the depths of Mother Earth calling you to educate yourself. For your tomorrow, your cup will not run over with love unless your heart is touched by the center of the earth. Educate yourself to see your soul in the dark eyes of a deer, in our ancient elder Cuauhtémoc, in the family you sometimes love to criticize. Raza, raza, raza. It takes more than a t-shirt, claiming a hood, or a catchy slogan to live the meaning of familia de la raza. Hidden in the dark corners of university libraries is our story, our past, our wisdom, our knowledge, transformed into someone's doctoral anthropology, our history dissertation. Edúcate, raza, to enter those camps of higher learning, discover the truth, reclaim what the 60s and 70s and the decade of the Hispanic could not. Challenge Eurocentric scientists. Edúcate, raza, to eat and drink nutrients that will heal your body while your spirits soar. Edúcate about the Nahui Alin, the Cuatro Movimientos. Free yourself. Exist as brothers and sisters with all Creator's chigos. For we are no more than the eagles that fly in the sky, and no less than the flies that eat the rot on the ground. Educate yourself to be prepared, for science fiction will seek us out. Think positive, be positive, porque el camino chueco no te conduce a nada bueno. Educate yourself to look within the mirrors of your soul. Smile, laugh, dance through life. Life's a stage, an old English vato you once wrote. Which character do you choose to play? Educate yourself to stop the violence. Say no to domestic violence and emotional violence. Say no to verbal violence. Anger, pain, rage, and hurt. We must confront. Stare them right in the face, then laugh, smile, and go our merry way. We are here on earth at this moment, at this time. Let us pray for peace, hope, faith, for love. For the red road, Don Juan's path with the heart, is the only road to love. Prepare yourself. Edúcate, raza, porque tú eres yo, yo soy tú, y tú eres mi enlaquesh. This last poem I'm going to read is called Cosechando Surcos de Amor. And I think that as we go, as we're young, and in the 60s we were really enraged, and we really thought we were going to change the world. We really did. And my jefita used to tell me, the story of humanity is a story of fighting, and poor people and rich people, and some people that are oppressors and some people are oppressed. And I once told my jefito, jefito, when I left your house, I thought that everybody was like you and my mom, that everybody was a good, decent human being, and that people said they loved you and liked you, they meant it. And the world chewed me up, spit me out, and stepped on me. But you know what I learned? I told my dad, I learned that I can change me. And by doing something to change me, I have done something to change the world. And today, in this day, I believe that if we're going to make a change in the world, it has to begin with us and with love. So this is about that. Cosechando surcos de amor, caminamos en filas de jade, somos nopales, woven like baskets, into la madre tierra. Somos hijos del sol, Tonatiuh nos vigila de sol a sol, girando al compás de los cuatro vientos, escuchando en las aulas de la mente el espíritu de nuestros antepasados. Somos el llanto de un tiempo olvidado y la risa entendiendo mañana no está comprada. Caminamos hacia el camino de la luz, hacia el camino de la cruz. Somos el árbol de la vida y de la penca del nopal, el reflejo del espejo, el sol que nos alumbra y nos da calor, el que nos quema de emoción. Somos del sol y los de abajo, llenos de la siembra del mañana y un nuevo amanecer. Somos las familias que nos ama, cosechando surcos de amor. You know, they say that once you get poets up here, they don't want to get down, but I'm going to get down. Okay?
Thank you, Luzma. That was wonderful. Up next is Corinne Comtreras. Corinne Comtreras is a queer Chicanx performance poet who sometimes goes by Crin, C-R-N. She is a first-generation Mexican-American from the Bay Area, currently residing in the Central Coast. They began writing poetry in grade school as a means of entertaining friends. Crin's work hopes to bring light to their neck of the world by spotlighting queer kids' struggles. They have worked to assist women and helped to create vigils to honor and remember victims and survivors of domestic violence. Crin is at work on their first chapbook entitled Orbit. Please welcome Crin.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. Is it better if I... Can you see me better? Oh, no, I think...
You're fine.
Yeah, without it, right?
Kick it out of the way.
All right, kicked out of the way. I love how this exhibit by Margaret Garcia has inspired certain poetry, like the poetry that Luzma brought up, really ties in some ways to the poem that I wrote for this event. And in preparation for writing this poem titled Unaddressed, I was checking out Margaret Garcia's painting. I think it's American Dream, the 2020. So it's the paletero in the back over there. And then there's also, there was one that really caught my eye. I believe it's called Progress and Prayers in the Meadow. And I want to say it's when you first come in, it's on the right-hand side and that first hallway. And I was also reading online that this collection was here, or began at this museum in 1985. Is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah, that's what I was reading online, and I thought that was really interesting because I was born in 1985, and so I thought I was just thinking about the ever-changing political landscape just in my own lifetime, and how Margaret Garcia's work is a reflection of that. I think Brown and Unaddressed was the title of a collection, or I don't think it was just one particular piece, but anyway, that's where I got the title for this poem. One thing to note is also, so I'm going to go through. Actually, I won't explain that. There's one thing that I do reference. I was going to pull it up, but one thing I do reference at the end is apparently in November this last year, Nicaragua stopped their visas or no longer have visas for Cuban immigrants. And so now, and currently, Cubans are the second largest Latino population who are crossing the border into the US. So I do make a reference to that at the end, just so you know where that came from. Let this be nothing less than a story of resilience, for this will always underline unrest for the unaddressed. As in, ¿me ves? Do you see me? El paletero, arm broken to comply. Do you see me? El florero, letting colors fade to graying skies. Do you see me? Presos, detention, where not even colors survive. Unaddressed, as in, are these not Lady Liberties homeless? Pero si me ves, parked under a tree, windows up for something like privacy, me ves? Fingers scrolling through an American dream, another life beyond a screen, tierra exclusiva. Are these not your huddled masses? Solo con que no te pases. But who are more homeless than the unaddressed, as in nameless? What of a name for a home? Belonging for direction? With something left to mentor, with something left to mention? What's a Chicano with no movement? What's land with no borders? Sin dirección, we are all uprooted. Headline reads, man crosses liquid highway, one leg. Resilience, a difference between floating and swimming. Thank you. Actually, before I sit down, there was one thing that I did want to mention. You know, when I was first checking out Margaret Garcia's work, the first thing that really struck me was the vibrancy of the colors. And it brought me back to this article I once read about prisoners who had just gotten out of like lengthy prison stays, and what color meant to them outside of whatever center they were in. And I just wanted to read two quotes because they reminded me of what people don't always have. You know, color isn't always a right to people. It's not always available. It really can be a luxury. So this is a quote, and I'm happy to let you know what article that was from. I have it in my phone. Spent 6 years behind bars. When I got out, the biggest shock was the beautiful sights and colors. I forgot how gorgeous nature was. And then the second quote. The morning he got out, his grandmother picked him up and they went to Target. He said his eyes were hurting because he hadn't seen the color red in years.
Thank you, Corinne. Up next is Crystal Salas. Crystal A.C. Salas is a Chicanx poet, essayist, educator, and community organizer. She recently completed her MFA at UC Riverside, where she also provided arts and storytelling outreach as a Gluck Fellow. She is a writing coach and community poetry workshop facilitator at the Moore Park College Writing Center, and serves as a poetry editor at Break Bread magazine, which is a magazine designed specifically for younger creatives 25 and under. Her chapbook, Grief Logic, just came out this April from Gunpowder Press. Please welcome Crystal Salas.
I think I can do this too. Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to respond to Margaret Garcia's work. And I also just want to thank the poets who were up here previously, Miranda, Luzma, Corinne, like amazing work. And I'm just so privileged to respond to this work alongside folks. And thank you, Phil and Marsha, for having me and us. This poem, I was so drawn to two of her pieces, Margaret's pieces in particular. One was the reincarnation of Tonantzin, and the next was La Virgen del Río de Porciúncula, and those are both on over there, so make sure you see them on your way out. Make sure you see all of them before you leave here. So the reincarnation of Tonantzin, she's like the La Virgen de Guadalupe that you would normally like see, but her face has become like a calavera. It's really stunning. And then the other Virgen is like resting in a river, and just looks so at peace. And it just really made me think about the origin, or what I know about the origins of La Virgen de Guadalupe, who actually used to be, the origins can be traced back to the goddess, the Aztec goddess Tonantzin, who was the goddess of the earth, like Mother Earth and fertility, and then appeared appeared in Tepeyac to Juan Diego, and then was interpreted at first as like under Spanish conquistador, like colonialism, was interpreted as like, oh, this is our goddess like reappearing to us. She's here, she hasn't left us. But then like the Catholic Church sort of took it as like, oh, well, we can make her a Virgin of Guadalupe, and then maybe they'll accept our faith. So it has a really complicated history, this mother of all. So my poem is called Sometimes La Virgen Sleeps and Dreams of the Night Before Tepeyac. They called me Tonantzin before a man saw me, made me virgin, tongued me a language he called romantic, said I reminded him of some girl he knew, cloaked me under stars he said could keep me warm. Las voces me abrumaban. Mother, 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 viene del oscuro, madre de Dios. You are full of grace, they said. Your womb is full of magic. Ruéganos, ruéganos de todo lo que sufrimos. And there was so much suffering in that time, so much sky to hover. It never stopped. I mothered once before. The earth birthed me first, gave ground to rest instead of floating by straight spine. I watch now the way into her they dig, only to spill her onto herself, her deepest wreckage, sangre y petróleo, and the fever that won't go down. And what can I do? If I didn't want to be a mother, would you still love me like you pray? Sometimes I sneak away here, where no man or God can find me. No vientre de Jesus, another child born neither mine or understood. My womb is full with my own dreaming. I and my own prayer, tender magic, soft chest to curl into, my own broken heart and wine glass shards ready to draw blood. I constellate through my own darkness. I appear to myself. Carry the serpent, my earth, by its scruff, primal guardian, in my own teeth. Yes, I see the gold of your longing. But por favor, déjame a descansar. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. That was really something. Up next, we have Emme Trelles, and she is the Poet Laureate of Santa Barbara and the author of Tropicalia, which was the winner of the Andres Montoya Poetry Prize. She's writing a second collection of poems titled Courage and the Clock. The daughter of Cuban immigrants, she has received fellowships from Canto Mundo and the Florida Division of Cultural Affairs. She teaches at Santa Barbara City College and curates the Mission Poetry Series. Please welcome Emme Trelles.
Thank you so much, Marsha and Phil, and thank you to all my fellow readers, Crystal, Corinne, Melinda, Luzma, everyone that's here today, and of course, thank you to Margaret Garcia, who we are here to honor and to celebrate. I have two short poems to share with you today, and I selected them because of how the natural world features prominently in both of them, much like we see in the paintings of Margaret Garcia. The first one is an acrostic poem, and the first letter of each line combined spells the word women. It's called Leave the Rest to Me. Warblers summon me, and I respond. I've never been one to ignore a flash in the branches. Even what never returns makes me keep waiting with my coat sailing in this winter-spring enlightenment. The again months when the country scorns nearly every unbroken wing. I can't stop it, but I'll never stop either. And this second poem, the title is the first line of the poem, and it also has some words in Spanish, most of which you could figure out, except maybe veneno, which means poison in Spanish. Thank you for reminding me, Cecropia moth, how you slow fold your summer kites away from the bite of go back to where you come from. I come from a city pretending to be an island, except for the parts where Nadia can eat, speak, live how they want. My stomach hurts again. The air is warm grass. A shadow cross of laughing gull moves over me and the park, and I don't think of resurrection, but of fists at the door. Breath held. An invasion of cruelty in the usual uniforms. My pencil says you are magical. The oracle says you chart flight with the bleak rays of the moon, a kind of compass so you know how to keep going. Thorax and legs threaded with the red of a stout altar candle, or a rally of open mouths waiting for you to land. En la luna hay paz y veneno, that is to say, possibilities. La luna will swallow a punch or a prayer, whatever the future she endures. La luna, la luna, la luna, la luna. The tongue glimmers with arrival. There is no better way to say it. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. That was really lovely. And up next, to give us some poetry, it will be Melinda Palacio. Melinda Palacio's novel, Ocotillo Dreams, received the Josephine Miles Award. Her poetry book, How Fire is a Story Waiting, was a finalist for the Milk, Kessler, and Patterson Prizes, but it also received first prize in poetry at the 2013 ILBA. The cover portrait, as she mentioned, is included in Margaret Garcia's community series of portraits that she did. So what a great honor for her to be included. And she got it on the cover of her book. In 2015, Melinda's work was featured at the Academy of American Poets Poem of the Day. And her latest poetry book is called Bird Forgiveness. Please welcome Melinda Palacio.
My grandmother caught the flame in her thick hands, curled fingers made nimble by kaleidoscope embers. Fire burns hot and cold if you know where to touch it, she said. I watched the red glow spit and wiggle as it snaked down the thin timber, a striptease born out of the festive sound of a half-filled matchbox. Through orange windows framed by obsidian eyes, I saw the child she once was, a little girl who raised herself because her mother had a coughing disease. Blood on her mother's handkerchief didn't stop her from dreaming. Maria Victoria wanted to be a singer with her deep cinnamon stick voice. She watched novelas in the kitchen while waiting for dough to rise. Her body heavy with worry for 2 families and 3 lifetimes. She tucked mariachi dreams under her girdle. Lullabies escaped on mornings warmed by her song, falling into gas burners turned on high. The flame on the stove was never the same. It had a bad hangover. Didn't remember the many matches lit when its starter broke down. My grandmother rolled paper into a funnel, stole fire from the pilot to light the stubborn burner on the right. Crimson burned blue on white paper, its edges folded like lace ruffle on skirt. The finicky flame can't comment on its magic. The thousands of tortillas and pancakes cooked over the years, how I burned myself roasting a hot dog campfire style, how a melted pencil smudged under my sister's eyelid makes her beautiful. My grandmother noticed the time, almost noon. She needed to make 3 dozen tortillas to feed her family of 13. The show over, she blew the match into a swirl of gray squiggles, snuffed it before it had a chance to burn hot on her finger. Funny how fire is a story waiting. Thank you.
And that is the perfect ending as a final moment for this Margaret Garcia honor. And I do believe that she made her images in love, and that when we look at her paintings, we are surrounded by her love of the world and her engagement with it. But before we say goodbye, I just would like to recognize and acknowledge our poets, Luzma Espinosa. Yay! Crystal Salas, Corinne Comtreras, Emme Trelles, and Melinda Palacio. Thank you so much for coming all this way and sharing your gifts with us relative to Margaret Garcia. It was marvelous. You are wonderful. Thank you.